Hello, heroes! You arrived just on time. This is Heroes Shadow, where we take a deep dive into our favorite heroes' minds. And if it's your first time here, keep your eyes open and flashlights on, because today's quest is about the man in the shadows.
Excuse me, Chief. Can I talk to you? Gil Coulson is missing. What?
There are moments capable of defining a person's life, and from that moment on, everything that happens will be influenced by it. Bruce was never the same after that night in the alley. All he had become was a direct consequence of the tragedy that happened to him and that he was never able to recover from. Everything he does revolves around seeking justice for those who need it, since his parents didn't receive it. But after 2 years of fighting crime, the violence in Gotham only seemed to grow. And as a new villain arises and Bruce discovers things about his dad, he starts to realize that being a vigilante didn't actually decrease crime rate, nor even helped him feel better. So, what is he even doing that for? In today's video, we're going to talk about how justice is not the real motivation behind Batman's actions, how it comes from a much darker place that we all may fall into without even realizing, while thinking we're dealing with our unresolved past negative experiences just like he did, and how we can change them. So let's begin.
You lied to me. My whole life.
Bruce lost the two most important people of his life at a very young age, and the murderer was never found. As the only survivor of a robbery that ended up in homicide, he dedicated his life to fight crime and prevent other people from not getting justice. He thought it was also a way to cope with the pain that changed who he was forever. And it was going to make him overcome the grief and loss and take something good from that tragedy. But in the long term, he realized it didn't help him recover at all. Therefore, he doesn't really have a life outside of his duty and is rarely seen outside. He even tells his butler, who raised him, that being a vigilante is his way to contribute to his family's legacy, as he was also doing good for Gotham. So, when a new villain starts messing around and killing important figures in town, he realizes what lies beneath his desire for justice, and how it has been preventing him from moving on.
I'm giving you the chance.
Although Bruce believes fighting crime is his coping mechanism, soon we discover that's not really the case. Bruce has only been chasing his own tail, just like Ouroboros. Ouroboros is an ancient symbol of a snake or a dragon eating its own tail, and is usually associated with life cycles and eternity, but also depicts something or someone coming back to the same place over and over without ever getting a conclusion or progress. And that's exactly Bruce's case. Fighting crime seemed like a great way to find some peace of mind by getting justice for other people. However, it ended up being a way to keep the wound open instead of letting it heal. Bruce's grief is a band-aid he can't seem to take off. Just like him, we tend to hold on to certain types of pain, even the ones that hurt us the most. Sometimes it's because we feel like pain validates our feelings for someone, as if it was selfish or disrespectful to even think of moving on or feeling happy again, as if it didn't mean anything unless you suffer forever. Or we might hold on to the pain because suffering is better than forgetting, and we feel empty just to imagine ourselves without that thing or that person. Especially when it comes to grieving someone, starting to forget things about the person or even not remembering them every second of the day feels like a betrayal. Feels like slowly dying second time. It feels like we're acting as if they never existed. So if we need to accept the pain in order to still have those feelings or that person and somehow being a part of them alive, we will embrace it. Lastly, we may think we deserve the pain. We may think we caused it, or something else caused it, or we could have stopped it and we didn't, so it's our fault. In cognitive behavioral therapy, it's called personalizing. And that's Bruce's case. He spent his life spiraling in the belief he could have done something to help his parents, but what he doesn't realize is that he was just a kid. He wasn't supposed to know how to stop a shot or do anything else. He was just a boy in a dangerous unknown situation, and he got paralyzed by fear. When he sees Don Mitchell's son, he recognizes himself in him. When the police officer says the boy found his father's body, Bruce didn't think he could have done something, because he couldn't, and Bruce knows that. But just like Batman, we tend to be way less comprehensive with ourselves in the exact same situations. Batman wasn't the one to blame for his parents' deaths, despite carrying this guilt. So, when Falcone tells him things about his father's past, he starts to reflect on how he has been carrying all this weight, but never got any better by trying. But the thing is, Bruce thought it was a way to cope. He thought he was doing it for justice, but as his own pseudonym implies, he was doing it for revenge. But not only against criminals and corrupt people, but himself. Keeping the wound wide open was his way of punishing himself for what he should have done. Because sometimes putting the blame on ourselves helps us rationalize unreasonable things. The answer we come up with is painful, but at least we have one. Bruce couldn't bear the injustice of his parents being innocent and getting killed, so he put the blame on himself. The murderer was never found, so the only way he could find a reason for it was taking the blame. That's why he developed this self-destructive behavior, disguised as a coping mechanism, to never let himself forget that he could have stopped it, and didn't, therefore keeping the wound open. This type of behavior can even stop us from healing, even in situations where we actually made a mistake. As we may feel like we always are gonna ruin things up, especially when we engage in thoughts like, "I'm always like this, I will never change, I deserve to go through this," and so on. It may seem like you're taking accountability, but when you look at it in this destructive way, you're not really recognizing your mistakes to make amends and do better next time. You're only punishing yourself, and will probably end up doing it again, as you don't engage in healthier behaviors and actions, which is what you need to do in order to improve. Improvement comes from self-compassion, even when you actually did wrong. But after meeting Don Mitchell's son and Catwoman, he realizes that, just like them, didn't deserve to carry that weight, because he couldn't possibly have known how to save them. Bruce didn't know, but was using some CBT techniques in which you take a step back and imagine other people in your place, as a way to distance yourself from negative assumptions and look at the facts only. That was when he saw how he was exactly like Don Mitchell's son and Catwoman. And if they didn't deserve the guilt, he didn't deserve it as well. Slowly, Bruce starts to realize he doesn't deserve to pay with his life for a mistake he didn't make, as he saw himself with a sprinkle of the compassion he had for the orphan boy and Catwoman. Besides that, when he stops to think about what his coping mechanism has been doing for him, which is another CBT technique, he realizes it's not helping him at all. Taking accountability for our actions is important, but we're not always able to see the situation clearly and might end up blaming ourselves when we're actually the victims. There are terrible things that may happen to us, but sometimes we didn't do anything to deserve them. And punishing ourselves for things we're not guilty for is not healthy. And besides, that doesn't help at all. After all, coping mechanisms are extremely helpful in processing and healing from negative experiences. But we need to make sure they are actually moving us forward instead of pulling us back. If you stayed until the end, let's practice a CBT technique together. Go to the comment section and write about something you feel somehow guilty for. Then, scroll through the comments and engage in other people's guilt. As we all interact in each other's stories, we may find out the truth we couldn't see. We're often way more compassionate to other people while we put ourselves in the dark. So let other people shine a light on you this time. If you liked this video, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't lose your next adventure call. If you're not ready to go yet, we've selected a few more videos just for you. Stay safe and I'll see you next time.